The thing that surprised me about Dune Awakening is how full it is with canonically correct lore. I didn't know much about the game going in, so I was a little bit afraid that it's gonna be a shameless cash grab. But I was very pleasantly surprised to see the amount and quality of detail that went into recreating Arrakis. Now, admittedly, this is the first MMO and first survival game that I've ever played, so the gameplay might not be good. And if you're looking for a game review, you're in the wrong place. What I'll be focusing on is exploring and explaining all the lore. I won't be nitpicky about anything that's required for game mechanics, so we'll be accepting the abundance of resources that are there to enable the survival aspect of the game. And since this is an alternative timeline, we'll be accepting any changes at face value, even if I might feel that some of them would have happened differently. So let's get into it and start at the beginning.
I dream of it, amongst the wild threads of history and the myriad of paths. My path saw the Imperium rise from the ashes left in the wake of the Great Revolt.
Since the Great Revolt seems to include exploding spaceships and human skulls with metal attachments, I think it's safe to assume this is the Brian Herbert interpretation of the Butlerian Jihad. If you're interested, I have a full article on what we know of the original Frank Herbert version of the same event.
Thou shalt not make a machine in the likeness of the human mind.
Maybe the most famous quote from the Orange Catholic Bible, but something that also shows up in the Great Convention. It's a prohibition against thinking machines that remained with humanity for at least 15,000 years.
With that commandment, new avenues of human potential were explored.
The Great Revolt took away a crutch, she said. It forced human minds to develop. Schools were started to train human talents. Bene Gesserit schools? She nodded. We have two chief survivors of those ancient schools, the Bene Gesserit and the Spacing Guild. The Guild, so we think, emphasizes almost pure mathematics. Bene Gesserit performs another function. Politics, he said.
Mentats, Suk Doctors, Sword Masters, and the mystical Bene Gesserit Sisterhood.
Okay, I'm so annoyed by this. The Bene Gesserit might be secretive, but they're not mystical. The whole point, and the narration literally just said it, that it's human talents they're developing. It's not magic what they do, it's science. And this coming from Paul Atreides, who's Bene Gesserit trained? Let's move on.
But it was the navigators and their monopoly on space travel that set the conditions for the Imperium. But I am telling you of the universe you already know. Let me describe the one you do not. In this other universe, my mother, Lady Jessica, consort to Duke Leto Atreides.
Okay, I know I said I won't comment on the alternative timeline, and I won't. Just a little bit of nitpicking. The Lady Jessica was never referred to as a consort. She is the bound concubine of the Duke.
Gave birth to a daughter, a girl they named Ariste. Because of her obedience to the Bene Gesserit, Lady Jessica is trained as a truth-sayer. Because of that training, Lady Jessica was able to detect Dr. Yue's deception. Because of the forewarning of his betrayal, House Atreides survived the Battle of Arrakeen. Because of their survival, the Emperor declared a full-scale war of assassins.
Please note how the Harkonnen assassins conveniently wear the family insignia.
Because of the war, the Sardaukar were deployed to ensure spice shipments continued without interruption. Because of the Sardaukar, the Fremen were eradicated. There was no Muad'Dib, no Lisan al-Gaib, no Kwisatz Haderach. I see a universe where I, Paul Atreides, was never born. All my visions lead to horror, except this one. This one leads to you.
The home screen greets us with a quote. A beginning is the time for taking the most delicate care that the balances are correct. And I love this because it's literally the first sentence you read in the original Dune.
Approach, prisoner.
Not lore related at all, but what I found really weird is that this room, in a few minutes we'll come to realize, is on a spaceship.
Show yourself, child. Have they told you what I am? Then I will sift your words for lies. Let's begin. Where were you born?
I'm sure you recognize Giedi Prime and Caladan as the homeworld of House Harkonnen and House Atreides. Kaitain is of course the Imperial homeworld for House Carino. Ix and the Ixians are delivering the most advanced technology, skirting the prohibitions of the Butlerian Jihad. And Chusuk, you might not recognize, is most noted for the quality of its musical instruments. It's a music planet. That's where Gurney Halleck got his new balisad after the attack on Arrakeen. I chose Kaitain because originally I'm a political scientist by trade, so it felt fitting.
The heart of the Imperium. The heart of civilization. The Order of the Imperium is rooted in the Farfreluches. A place for every man, and every man in his place. Where is your place?
This might not be widely known if you haven't read the books, but the world of Dune is ruled by a very rigid class system. To show the reader how savage and backwater a place Arrakis is, Herbert has Dr. Yui explain to Paul that the Farfreluches class system was not rigidly guarded on Arrakis. And as for the classes that you can select here, there's two that are definitely in the book. Pions, the terminology of the Imperium explains it as planet-bound peasants or laborers, one of the base classes under the Farfreluches, legally wards of the planet. Bondsman is not explained, but we have the Shadout Mapes, for example, who is described as a knobby, grey-haired woman in a shapeless sack dress of a bondsman brown. And Na Familia, I would assume, comes from the Na Baron title that was shared by Feyd-Rautha and Rabban Harkonnen. There it literally means heir to the title or heir to the barony. Here they extended it to nobility. And that's what I chose, because anything else seems like a really bad time in the universe of Dune.
Did you give bad advice? Or make a bad deal? To be close to power is to walk the knife's edge. You had a mentor in your youth, trained by one of the schools. Who was your mentor?
So while troopers are not an actual school in the Dune universe, swordmasters are. One of the most famous swordmaster of Janaz is of course Duncan Idaho. I chose the Bene Gesserit just because I'm a lifelong fan of the Sisterhood.
Yes, I have heard of our sisters giving training outside of the chapter house. It is frowned upon. The test is almost complete. Have you spoken truth?
Did anyone else notice that this Reverend Mother doesn't seem to have the eyes of Ibad? I think at this point it's pretty well documented that anyone who undergoes the spice agony would have blue within blue eyes. Then again, we know that some people use contact lenses to hide it. Alright, carry on.
Come here. Kneel.
This of course is a direct copy of Dune Part 1.
Come here. Kneel. Put your hand in the box. I hold at your neck the Gom Jabbar, the high-handed enemy. Don't pull away or you will die. Great plots are afoot in the Imperium, and the currents of intrigue run deeply. Arrakis is the key, and the Fremen are missing. You will go to Arrakis as our agent, prisoner.
If this is so important, why don't they send a sister?
Find the Fremen. Wake the sleeper.
I don't know what that glowing tattoo is, and I have even less of an idea what she thought she would accomplish by using the voice. The reason I stopped the video is to mention that Wake the Sleeper and Dune Awakening, these are not canonical references. They're not in any of the books. So why do we associate them with Dune? Because they're from the cringiest scene in the 1984 movie.
Father, the sleeper has awakened!
Everything depends on this. Do you understand?
I lied.
Good, you speak truth. But here is the rest of it. There is only one rule. Keep your hand in the box and live. Withdraw it and die. An animal would gnaw off its own hand to escape the pain. And we can only be served by humans. Find the Fremen. Wake the sleeper. You will know when it is done.
This looks like the same rocket launcher type weapon that Chani used in Dune Part 2 to shoot down that ornithopter. Adab is a weird one, because despite it having Arabic roots, it's not actually a Fremen word. It pops up in the first 3 books, Dune, Messiah, and Children of Dune, and most of the time, Jessica is having an Adab moment. The terminology of the Imperium defines Adab as the demanding memory that comes upon you of itself. In the original Dune, the first time we encounter Adab is in a scene where Stilgar was waiting for Jessica to show a sign to prove that she is part of the prophecy. Her mind felt as though it had rolled over within her. She recognized the sensation with a quickening of pulse. Nothing in all the Bene Gesserit training carried such a signal of recognition. It could be only the Adab, the demanding memory that comes upon you of itself. She gave herself up to it, allowing the words to flow from her. So it's weird to encounter this word that, at least in the original book, is tied to the Bene Gesserit. And also, I don't quite understand what Zantara would mean by Adab. Did he see me, and because of a memory that came upon him, he decided to save me instead of killing me?
It's just an off-world plan. No, not the Alshaahid Akadhib.
I'm calling it right now. I am the Alshaahid Akadhib. And I guess that's why the Bene Gesserit decided to send me, because they already knew that, or at least suspected it. Now, the only question is, what is an Alshaahid Akadhib? It's not in the canon at all, neither core nor expanded universe. I don't speak Arabic, but I did some digging. Al-Shahid means the witness, and Al-Akadhib means lies or sometimes liars. So put together, it would literally mean the witness of lies or the lying witness. It could describe a false witness. So I'm very curious to see if I'm indeed the Alshaahid Akadhib. Am I witnessing the lie, or am I going to be lying to someone?
No, Arista said it was just a dream.
Every time the Zantara character says something, there's some squeaking response. So I assume it's the Cielago bat that's answering him. And if that is so, that's definitely not canon. Cielago bats are indeed message carriers. They can carry messages encrypted in their call, but they don't have sentience to have a conversation. Except if this specific bat is some Tleilaxu genetic experiment and they gave it sentience for some reason.
I agree, but she is almost Sayyadina.
Sayyadinas are female acolytes in the Fremen religious hierarchy. That's the title that Jessica gets when they meet up with Stilgar's troop. And then just before Jessica took over as Reverend Mother, Chani was actually promoted to Sayyadina in the book. So that if Jessica doesn't survive the spice agony, the tribe still has kind of a direct line to God. And so it seems the Atreides can't get away from the Fremen, because Arista, who we know from the intro cinematic as now the daughter of Jessica and Duke Leto, is almost Sayyadina. I feel like this is a good point for us to stop. We'll pick it up in the next video. If you found this lore review interesting, please let me know by liking, subscribing, or leaving a comment, and definitely leave a comment if you've seen something that I skipped over. If you want to nerd out some more, you can find me at dunenavigator.com. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.